Hello and welcome to our 4 p.m. Budget reconciliation meeting. Mike, I'll let you kick us off on that.
Well, thank you, and I thank the board, both boards, for all the great work that you've done. This has been a wonderful process, as I shared with the budget board and I believe also with the select board. A process different than I'm accustomed to and one that I've enjoyed very much. So I found the collaboration, the interaction with the department heads and certainly with Jody and my efforts wonderful, and I thank you. And again, wanna thank Jody and the department heads for their great work with this budget process. It has been as seamless as I could ever have imagined. And John, I don't know if you'd like to do introductions. Does everybody know everybody in the room or as far as the two boards?
Well, sure, why don't we go around, I guess.
It begins with him.
Mark, Marisa Caputo, Budget Committee.
Jody Sanborn, your Finance Director.
Mike Pardue, your town manager.
Casey Welch, the accountant.
Fran Schneider, budget.
Bob Foley, selectman.
Scott D. Felice, selectman.
John McLeod, Selectman.
Kathy Chase, Selectman.
Tim Roach, selectman.
Ryan Toomey, budget committee.
Adam Bloom-Pykopoulos, budget committee.
Bill Wade, budget.
Richard DeVoe, budget.
Mark Bagdasarian, budget committee.
Thank you. Jody, it's a reconciliation and I think we've met with both boards and your memo summarizes some additions I think that the Board of Selectmen had proposed that have been incorporated, and maybe you can tee it up for us from there.
Sure. So the Board of Selectmen met on Thursday, March 9th. And prior to that, the budget committee brought to the Board of Selectmen had a tax rate of $10.89, which equated to a $4 for municipal, 54 cents for county, $6.12 for school, and a 23 cent going towards overlay, which would have been 43 cents over the current tax rate. During the meeting on the 9th, the Board of Selectmen made a few adjustments. The first one was they wanted to increase the Public Works tree removal budget by another $25,000, which would make it 75. When we left budget committee, you guys were at 50,000 for that. There was also in the time between the budget committee meeting and going to the Board of Selectmen, Mike and I met with our copier company, and we had 7 machines that are out of service life. Some of them were from 2013 and they should not be on my contract. So this 19,000 that we're proposing to add would be to rent 8 new copiers throughout the town. So that's a change that the budget committee will need to vote on.
3-year lease.
That was a 3-year lease, yes. And that actually also brings down our copy per page amounts, because if they were gonna give me a service agreement on machines that are from 2013, my prices would have increased. Another change that the Board of Selectmen recommended was to use another $2,000 from surplus. So we put that into CIP funding, so that's reducing the tax rate.
200,000.
200,000, oh, did I say
Missed a couple zeros.
And then the last change was in the warrant article section. They wanted to do an exposure to surplus for winter operations that could be used we could either use them for hired plows or outside hired plows, or the salt. So if Public Works overran their entire budget, we would have an option to, after the Board of Selectmen held a public hearing, to use funding that was exposed to surplus to bring those lines back up so they're not overdrawn.
It really works as kind of an insurance policy for the unpredictable winters that we have, and even though the events don't seem to be from a magnitude quite as large as we may have experienced years ago, we find that we're going out to salt, sand and all, and I don't know if Carol, much more frequently, and so this gives us some funds that we can ask the board to consider that would support the budget if needed, only if needed.
And so if the Budget Review Committee agrees with the Board of Selectmen changes, it changes the tax rate to $10.85 It makes the municipal side $3.96. County, school, and overlay stay the same, which is 39 cents under our current tax rate. And we'd be under LD1 and under by 782,724,000.
You mean 39 cents increase over.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes,
No
yeah.
problem. You want us to,
So, yeah, the budget
Take a
committee
vote?
would have to vote on those.
Alright, so the first vote we take then is to agree with the $25,000 increase to Public Works. For a total of, right?
do we need a motion?
That's what I was gonna say.
I'll make a motion to
Thank you.
increase the public works tree removal from 50,000 to 75,000.
Second,
Second.
any discussion?
Question.
Go ahead.
During our procedures with the department heads, we initially raised the tree removal line by 25,000. We increased it 100%. It was proposed, I think, by Mike and Carol to be 25,000. In our discussions, we felt that, considering what's been going on, we raised it 100% to 50,000. Now we're going another 25,000, and I'm just looking for maybe the reasoning, what was going on, and maybe
Sure,
Carol
I
can.
could offer if you'd like real quickly. Currently, that last, two storms ago that I think devastated our community, we're spending $12,000 a week right now picking up and trimming certain areas, and Carol will fondly call them widow makers or widower makers, I might add. But we're spending $12,000 a week, and we recognize the removal of pretty much an average tree is about $1,000 for a tree. John, your expertise is far greater than mine in that area.
So it was, I had raised that, obviously, we all experienced that same storm with massive power outages around the town of Wells. We've seen that there's still effects lingering. Part of what I think needs to be done, and we've discussed it to an extent, I think the Board of Selectmen at some point will discuss the position of a tree warden, to come up with a plan that Carol can use around town. The interim, I think, I think it'd be a good idea if that money were in there, Carol could potentially put together a request for bid to go out to an arborist to go around and do a townwide plan that the Public Works Department could then use. That 25,000 would help supplement that, and obviously implementing it would be quite costly as well. There's a lot of removal around town and pruning that needs to be done, I think, so.
Okay, just curious.
What are the perimeters for picking up these branches that are all over the road that are on the town property? I mean, we've got a ton of them in our neighborhood that are on the town, on 6 feet from the road that are sitting there. I mean, is a town truck coming through and picking up these branches and, and getting rid of them? Is it part of that 25,000 or 75,000? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's.
I'm being nice and quiet sitting here in the corner. I wish I had a plan that I could present to everyone in town, Mark, not just you, because my phone rings a lot with folks saying, when are you gonna come and clean up in front of my property? I've never seen anything like what happened in that late January storm, where it was just trees falling faster than I've ever seen in storms. We are addressing the widow makers and widower makers because they pose a threat and a danger to folks using the highways. So we're tackling those first. In the meantime, we started working with our crew, our chipper, trying to clean up certain areas. We've got a lot of work to do. I joke and I tell the guys, you're gonna be doing a lot of this for 6 months, and they go, no, we'll be doing that till Christmas. Luckily, you folks all approved the purchase of a chipper that we've had for about a year now, or we would really be in trouble. We're just gonna keep at it as best we can with our own forces. I haven't talked to Mike yet, but maybe we're gonna try to do some of it on overtime when we go to 410s, maybe do 410s half a day on Friday just for chipping. I've put some thoughts together, but I haven't got them all gelled yet. I just found out today we're losing one of our crew members for about a month. He's going under the knife April 13th for a knee replacement. So we'll lose to lose Woody for at least 6 weeks, not 8. So I'm working on a good plan, but I'm not there yet. And to circle back to John's point, I like plans. I like knowing where I'm going. And if I can put together an RFP, get some arbors interested in helping us develop that plan, then we'll have something that we can work toward every single year and do it consistently. I hope that helps, or at least didn't confuse things.
I'm just curious, I mean, do we have like a town crew that would go around through the neighborhoods and get rid of the branches that are, sitting on the town property? I guess there's 6 feet into everybody's yard is town property, and we got branches laying all over the place, and that's why I was wondering, it'd be nice if a town crew would go around the neighborhood and pick those up and go to the next neighborhood.
She just said that, she does have the crew going around, they've already started, so
But
it's a long process, especially on the other side. If you look at the other side of 95, you think this side is bad, the other side is worse, so.
Part of the problem too in the winter was just that right after that, we had another storm, the branches got plowed into the snowbank, a lot of them are frozen, so if they'd gone around and tried picking them up at that point, they would have just doubled back, it probably would have increased the workload and costs twice what it needed to be, so.
I don't know that. they've been
Frustrating
fighting all
for
the
sure
storms.
though.
We can't even pick up the ones in our yard because of that.
Bill?
Yeah, just relative to what you're saying, I think it's important to note that with the climate changes that are taking place, it's been pretty well construed that even though we may be spending a little less on salt and plowing as time goes on because the winters are getting more mild, wind severity is definitely on the increase. They're recording this year to year, and so I think trees and branches are going to be an issue from this point forward.
And I think also the economic standpoint too is worth noting, just that as we've all seen, everything's gone up in costs, and not long ago, I think our tree budget was only about $15,000, that was only a couple of years ago. I just think we fell behind somewhere along the line. Now, at some point, I would envision we could dial that 75 back, but I think we have some work to do over at least the next 6 or 8 years, I think, very least. How many miles of road do we have? Both lanes, is it about 200?
Yeah, it's about 200, roughly 250. And the right-of-way widths do vary throughout town. I mean, a good rule of thumb is wherever you see a telephone pole, that's probably the edge of the right-of-way. So if you're worried about whether it's town property or your property, find the nearest telephone pole, it gives you a good way to judge it. And again, we won't be going on private property, but we do intend to clean up right-of-way line to right-of-way line. As John said, over the years, we've fallen behind with our responsibilities there, and we're gonna try to catch up.
Ursa, do you have any?
All set.
Brian?
Good.
And Bill?
Good.
Richard? Mark?
I'll say.
Okay, all those in favor? None opposed, okay, great. The adding the $19,000 of the copier to the IT budget to cover the leasing costs, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Ursa, any questions? Brian?
Nothing.
Adam? Nope. Bill?
Good.
Richard?
I'll say.
Mark? All those in favor? Alright, none opposed. Vote on the CIP to further reduce the tax rate. Recommendation was made to use $200,000 from surplus for CIP proposed funding.
So moved.
Second.
Marissa, any questions?
No.
Brian?
No.
Adam? Bill?
Good.
Richard?
I'll say.
Mark? Alright, all those in favor? And then do we have to vote on the adding the exposure to surplus for winter operations as well? To add that to a warrant
You
article?
can, it will be when you make your recommendations.
We'll do that. Okay. Not very controversial?
No, it's good.
No, great, yeah.
So, Chair, before we go over warrant articles, can they vote the minutes if they've had time to?
Oh, sure, thank you. Forgot about the minutes. What date was the, I don't have it in front of me.
February 15th.
Move to accept the minutes as read. Second.
Any additions, corrections, discussions, joys, concerns? Okay, all those in favor?
It was a joyous.
Thank you for that reminder. Alright.
Alright. Now, do we need to have
So in the packet that I handed out, we just need to have official recommendations starting at Article 3.
So the estimated revenues.
Yeah.
Alright, we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the recommended appropriation for this article.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept the estimated revenues as listed.
Second.
All those in favor? No, one opposed? Okay.
That's a 6-1.
Okay,
Alright, moving on to Article 4. Motion?
I make a motion that we accept the past due account of, that's recommended.
Second. All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept the past due accounts for $852,500.
Second.
Richard, beat you, Bill. All those in favor?
No.
Okay, in favor? Mark, are you, okay, any opposed? No, okay.
Nice to prove you.
Alright, Article 5.
I make a motion that we accept the appropriation for the salaries and benefits of $10,092,364. I mean, $10,881,143.
Somebody's gonna get shortchanged.
All those in favor?
Felt the gas.
5-0.
Okay, Brian, go ahead.
Move to accept the salaries and benefits line for $10,881,143.
Second.
Alright, Bill, you beat you. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, 6-1. Go ahead,
Article 7.
sorry.
So Article 6.
I move to accept operations as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Just wanna correct, it's Article 6.
Article 6, yeah.
Yeah, okay, you said 7.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I am
Jumped
really-
ahead of
I'm bad
myself.
at thousands
Trying to hurry it
today.
along,
I'm telling you,
Brian.
right, yeah. Thank
Move to
you.
accept operations.
Jeez. Second.
Alright, all those in favor? Opposed? No, okay, 7-0.
So that's 7-0.
Yep, 7-0.
Alright, now we'll move on to Article 7.
Okay, I make a motion. Okay, I make a motion that we accept Article 7 as written.
Second. All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 7 as written.
Second. All those in favor? None opposed? 7-0.
Alright, Article 8.
I make a motion that we accept Article 8 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 8 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Article 9, we have a motion.
I make a motion that we accept Article 9 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 9 capital improvement plan as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? No, okay, 7-0.
Motion on Article 10.
I make a motion that we accept Article 10 capital expenditures as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 10 capital expenditures as written.
Second.
All those in favor? None opposed, correct.
Move on to Article 11, we have a motion.
I make a motion that we accept Article 11 expenditures from specific CIP reserve accounts as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 11 expenditures from specific CIP reserve accounts as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? 6-1.
Question.
Sure.
On the reserve accounts, what was our starting balance and for the reserves and going in, and what's our current expenditures for this budget?
So this article would be dependent upon which reserve account we're trying to use. So say we need to use funding out of infrastructure to help with our grant match for a FEMA storm, we come to a public hearing and the board can allow us to use it. So it's gonna depend on whatever reserve fund we're looking at.
I mean, is there a general town reserve fund that we have? And then how much of those reserves are we spending for the FY 2024 budget is my question.
I don't know, that's something we would have discussed during the process, so I don't know that we have it here now, but that would have been something we discussed. There are different reserve funds.
As we went
They're
through
all-
every budget line, we talked about where the funding came from, whether it was reserve, taxation, or whatever, so she can't just pull that up right now.
Cause there's not just
Because
one,
I saw a figure
there's not just
somewhere
one
around
reserve fund.
800,000, is that somewhere close to where we're talking?
Hey, Mark,
I'm not sure I
Mark, if you
understand the
wanna
question.
go offline, we can go over it after. I'll go over it with you after.
I'm just trying to find out what, how much of what percentage of the reserves that are currently in the town reserves that we're taken from those reserves to spend on the FY 2024 budget, that's what I'm asking. I think it's a straightforward question.
Yeah, I'll review it with you after. We have it in our book.
Yeah, I don't know the exact percentage, I don't know if anybody here does.
No.
But we voted 6-1, so.
We'll move on to Article 12, general assistance, motion.
Make a motion, we accept Article 12, general assistance, up to $45,000 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 12, general assistance for up to $45,000.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Article 13, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Article 13, town clerk compensation as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 13, town clerk compensation as written.
Second.
All those in favor? 7-0.
We have Article 14, we have a motion.
I move to accept Article 14, convert part-time assessing clerk to full-time as recommended.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Article 14, move to convert part-time assessing clerk to full-time as written.
All those in favor?
Second?
Oh, sorry. Moving too fast, all those in favor? Thanks, Bruce.
Article 15, we have a motion.
I move that we accept Article 15, increase library assistant hours from 27 to 30 as recommended.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 15, increase library assistant hours from 27 to 30 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Article 16, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Article 16, one full-time code enforcement officer as recommended.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 16, one full-time code enforcement officer as written.
Second that.
And all those in favor?
Moving on to Article 17, we have a motion.
I move to accept Article 17, one full-time assistant fire chief and appropriate $94,918 and transfer said monies $94,918 into the fire department salary and benefit lines during FY 2024 as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 17, one full-time assistant fire chief as written.
Second. Alright, all those in favor? Opposed?
Article 18, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept Article 18 for full-time firefighter slash paramedics and appropriate upvote and raise and appropriate $443,336 and transfer said monies into the fire department salary and benefit line during fiscal year 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 18, four full-time firefighter paramedics as written. Kathy's doing all.
Second that.
That's great.
These ones we really need, detail on these ones.
All those in favor? Opposed? Is that 6-1?
6-1.
Yeah.
Article 19, do we have a motion?
I make a motion, we accept Article 19, two full-time dispatches, and to raise and appropriate $110,774 and transfer said monies $110,774 into the police department salary and benefits line during fiscal year 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 19, 2 full-time dispatches as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Richard, did you?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, it's okay, alright, I just wanted to make sure.
Paying attention a little.
Great. Lastly, we have Article 20. We have a motion.
I move to accept Article 20, 2 full-time patrol officers, and for the town to vote and raise and appropriate $122,748 and transfer said monies, $122,748, into the police department salary and benefit lines during fiscal year 2024.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Move to accept Article 22, full-time patrol officers as written.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? 6-1. Alright.
Excellent.
Thank you,
Well-
everybody, thank you.
Well, great work. Everybody did a real good job. Thought that process went along nicely. A lot of good questions asked.
As one of the liaisons, and I'm sure Scott will have something to say, it was a pleasure coming to your meetings. You asked great questions. I learned a lot, actually, from feedback and questions that you had and that were answered. And it was great. It was a great process.
On behalf of staff, I wanna thank all of you for your time and your support.
And I wanna say thank you to everybody on the committee and everybody who works with us and puts up with us asking all these questions. I think it's a great process.
Very
Yeah,
well.
it is a
It's-
great process.
For Mike,
I was gonna say, an old dog learned a new trick. That went very, very well, and I think the more insight that we can provide all of you, the better, so I enjoyed it.
Well, great job for our friends over here.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I was looking at all of them. I was that's who I was referring to.
Jody takes it.
No, I was referring to everybody, all the department heads having to
Great
put up
job.
with our questions.
For all the information that you got.
all the support.
Yeah.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
But it's just a great process. It's not how it's done everywhere. But I just think it's a great process.
No, and you all did a fantastic job and thank you.
Good for Wells, great job. Brian had a memo, I don't know if you wanted to touch it.
Oh,
So I gave,
sure, go ahead, Brian.
I gave copies to the select board.
Okay,
We
okay.
went through it the last meeting. And this way they all have a copy of it. I gave you a copy and Jody a copy, and I can email it to Jody, so you'll have it. But nothing's changed, it's all on there. We just added 2 small items on it, we
I
got
will
from the
say
committee.
that staff has already started to work diligently on some of the items that you recommended, so that we can bring those numbers and thoughts forward.
I think it's great. It was really some good ideas in here.
We thought, give Brian the credit for the brainchild. I mean, we had these issues come up and we don't have a lot of power. We have the power to recommend. But we were at times disturbed by the amount of money we're leaving on the table and some of the things that we're not doing as a town. As everything gets more expensive, as population grows, we're just gonna need some more money in some way other than just taxing people's property. And there's some low hanging fruit. So
And these recommendations were on revenue,
yes.
right? So that everybody understand it wasn't,
Right.
on
In
this was
order to
revenue.
keep the
Yeah.
tax rate down, right?
Right.
That's what we like.
Yeah, well,
May I quickly ask, I know this year we tried to provide, from what I understand, a little bit more supporting background information. Was that helpful with photographs and the materials that personnel provided, was that helpful to you?
Yes, that was
Okay.
very, I
We'll
thought it was
plan
great.
accordingly for next year then.
Is it worth noting, Brian, the 2 changes you made, just
So I get, there was a question on the funding from the Gunkwit on the joint processes that we do, like the senior center and the historical society, so we just recommended that a fair process be reviewed and see if there's a way to do that so that we know what actually Gunkwit's doing. And the other one was, what's number 9 and 10?
Recommend standard financial
Oh, right, so for the grant process, if we had a standard financial form that they all submitted, that way we would understand their financing. I mean, the Historical Society went on for a long time trying to understand their financial piece, so if they all submitted the same format, it'll be much easier for us to all read it and see where we stand with it, so
Continuity.
continuity.
Well, I wish you luck on the Gunker piece, but all that's already announced.
Yeah, no, I
After
mean, it's
this year,
recommendation,
then,
it's, it's the first time we've actually put the recommendations in writing. We make recommendations every year, but it's sort of like, we just pass them on, so we just figured it was time to start, at least, there seemed to be a lot this year, so we figured, you know what? Let's make it a formal process, we pass them on, like Ron says, we don't have the power to do anything, it's just recommendations for people to look at, and if we can make progress along those lines, great.
And I will say, this is the first year that I will have something positive to give you next year about Agunquit.
Okay.
Because they've responded this year for
Great.
the first time. So I think that's fair.
Yep.
I think that's fair that both towns share a lot of things and both towns should share some of the responsibility.
And I think some of the funding we're doing for the Historical Society was the assumption that when we had a certain amount, that Agunquit was going to follow through at their end with that amount. And I get the feeling that perhaps that hasn't always been the case.
That's a good feeling.
Or it's an accurate feeling.
It's
not
maybe not a
good.
good feeling, it's an accurate feeling.
But as far as the senior center goes, they are responding this year.
Just out of curiosity, would it be worthwhile looking at a revenue committee, creating a revenue committee, so that way we can look at all the avenues of possible revenue? Just throwing it out there.
That's it. Put it down here as item 11, Mark, how's that sound?
That sounds good to me.
What?
We did, however, I wanna say and
Oh, item 11
emphasize
on this.
that
I took place.
when looking at revenue though, and if you had a committee, at
Yeah.
least from the budget perspective, budget board's perspective, we didn't want to see revenues impact people inappropriately or inequitably. And some of the recommendations that we made, built into the recommendation is an assumption that the way the fee structure would be, that there would people be able to afford those extra fees, that it would not be regressive or land on people who can't afford it.
And you know, and your recommendations and your ideas, I mean, when people come, when we have ideas that we need to raise some fees or some funds when something isn't, like the transfer station paying for itself and that type of thing, you're absolutely right. If we dealt with that on a regular basis, we wouldn't have huge increases suddenly that people unexpectedly have to now pay out of their pocket when, if it was a little bit each time. And in all honesty, having your group say that we should look at some of these fees, that helps, because sometimes the feedback that you get isn't always positive. You know, it's like, oh no, don't do that or whatever, and you hesitate because you really want to do the best for the townspeople as well as for the town and the services that we provide. So it's great when we get feedback like this and we say, you know what, maybe we're not the only ones that think that we ought to do that.
Or rather than, I mean, just spitball, obviously we have to talk about that, but if we did something like that, rather than setting up another committee, I don't like how many committees we
Yeah,
have,
we'd
that's
have
one of my big pet
workshops.
peeves, but couldn't we expand the duties of the budget committee to maybe go in and sunset it, but meet for however many times out of the year to look at that?
I would rather have us have workshops together. You know, that's better, not, don't assign people to do, you know, you have you know, so that we can look at a bunch of ideas, toss it around, dislike it, like it, whatever, and then move from that next process. I truly, I think that's, rather than another committee or another time for, I mean, cause they do.
Workshopping, you
Yeah.
know, collaboratively.
Yeah.
Dean has done a tremendous amount of work on the fee structures
Uh-huh.
already.
Yeah.
And kind of a compare and contrast to other communities
Right.
and all. I think that's the information that can come back and be workshopped.
Right,
together.
exactly, workshop on those, because, you know, for us to just say, gee, I think we ought to raise all the fees in code enforcement, well, you know, you probably have feedback on that, right? You know, and how that would work, cause you're gonna be dealing with people on the front lines. So, I mean, I think the workshop works, I've loved our workshops that
Super.
we've been able to have, I think, in the last few years, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We will do that.
Meeting of the minds.
That leaves you out, Ron.
With that,
What, it's the last meeting.
So do I, it isn't one that we adjourn.
I know where he lives.
7 houses down.
And
Do
I
we
hear
have
the
an adjournment on
patrols
this one?
from the police department
Okay.
slower in that neighborhood, give me more time.
Who's the other one?
Yeah, yeah, do we-
Motion to adjourn.
yeah, do we have a motion to
Yeah,
adjourn?
we have a, I have a yeah, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Alright, thank you.
Okay, thank you folks very much, nice seeing you all.
Select for your 5:45.
As I said, I always
Yeah.
for a second adjournment.